Welcome to NarrativeNook audio tales where enchanted stories come to life. If you enjoy our stories, please subscribe, like and share to support our channel. Enjoy listening.
Does it hurt? Shirley asked with concern. Yes, the man replied. She immediately blew on his fingertips. Be careful not to burn your hand. She thought to herself that he must be overwhelmed by grief and sorrow for his mother. Do you need me to help you light it? Shirley asked. Upon seeing 4 sets of candles beside him, she was worried that the man would burn his fingers again. Zacharias pursed his lips and smiled. Sure. Let's do it together. After saying that, he handed her the candle and then looked toward the direction of the tombstone. In his heart, he was communicating with his mother. Mom, I brought your future daughter-in-law to visit you. Are you happy in the afterlife? The girl lighting the candle next to him was completely unaware of his emotions. After lighting the candle, the smoke was scattered in the wind and quickly disappeared as if blowing toward another world. When Zacharias stood up, he bowed his head in silence for a few seconds toward the grave, then turned back to the car with Shirley following him. The car drove back toward the direction of the mountain villa. Shirley tidied up, and Zacharias received several phone calls in succession. It was time for them to return. At 11:30 a.m., they set off back to the city. Due to his prominent identity, they couldn't stop for a meal, even if restaurants were on the way. When they arrived at the Flintstone residence, it was already almost 2:30 p.m. Just as Shirley got out of the car, she saw someone coming out of the Flintstone residence. It turned out that their lunch had already been delivered. Zacharias was once again busy with the phone calls and Shirley stood by the dining table waiting for him. After finishing the call, he found her standing there like a straight tree. It was almost 3:00 p.m. now. Zacharias couldn't help but frown. He walked quickly to the dining table and said, "Let's eat." Shirley nodded and sat down, but Zacharias' mind was clearly not on the meal. His eyes were full of emotions. She couldn't eat much either, probably because she was too hungry. She took a few bites casually, and at that moment, she received a message on her phone. She picked it up and glanced at it, after which a hint of surprise flashed in her eyes. The message was from Cole. He asked if she was free to meet up this weekend. Zacharias noticed her expression, and even though he was thinking about important work, he still took a moment to observe the girl in front of him. Instead of immediately replying to Cole, Shirley put her phone back in her pocket and calmly asked Zacharias, "Mr. Flintstone, tomorrow is the weekend. Can I take 2 days off?" Combining her surprised expression just now and the fact that she wanted to take a day off, he deduced that it wasn't because she wanted to meet a relative, but probably the person she liked. He also wanted to know who she secretly admired, so this was a perfect opportunity. "What do you need a vacation for?" Zacharias didn't immediately agree. I want to go home and visit my grandmother." Shirley also knew that if she said she wanted to meet a friend, this man might not grant her leave. However, paying respects to elders was something he might allow. He raised an eyebrow. "You need 2 days off?" "1 day is fine too." "How about Saturday?" "Can I take a day off on Saturday?" Shirley carefully observed his expression and hoped he would agree. "All right. I'll give you half a day off. Visit your grandmother and come back immediately," Zacharias said stingily. How could he allow her the chance to spend the night with that man? So, he was only willing to give her half a day off. Although she was not satisfied in her heart, having a half day off was better than nothing. Besides, she could try to ask for an extension later. "Okay. I'll be back to work after 3:00 p.m. Is that okay?" She wanted to treat Cole to a meal. "Sure," the man replied. Shirley pursed her lips and was unable to hide her joy. Zacharias, on the other hand, became more certain that she was going to meet her crush. She had no appetite for food anymore, and he was also not in the mood. He put down his fork and said, "I'll hire a housekeeper to take care of the housework in the future. You don't need to do it yourself." Shirley was startled. "What should I do then?" "Just accompany me," the man said as he still felt sorry for her washing dishes every day. She suddenly felt that the meaning of her work had disappeared. She hurriedly said, "I can handle these things." However, Zacharias insisted on it. "The housekeeper will be here soon. You can go back to your room and rest." After hearing this, she had no choice but to comply, but she was eager to tell Cole about her half-day off on Saturday. Back in her room, Shirley immediately replied to Cole, "Cole, I have time tomorrow afternoon. Let's meet and have a meal together." "Sure," Cole replied. "Okay. See you tomorrow." "See you." After confirming that they would meet tomorrow, Shirley happily rolled on the bed like a child. She couldn't help but look forward to tomorrow. The restaurant that Willow had invited her to last time was good. She could take Cole to that restaurant. Meanwhile, Zacharias sat in the study. Although he didn't work for a whole day, and the documents piled up beside him like a mountain, his mind was not on work at the moment. His thoughts were disturbed by something unrelated to work. Shirley Lloyd. The smile Shirley showed after seeing the message just now repeatedly appeared in his mind. It was a smile with a hint of shyness and anticipation that only appeared when one liked someone. Who on earth is that man? How can he make her like him so much? In the evening, dinner became more sumptuous after the housekeeper arrived. Shirley's job description changed to living in Zacharias' house and enjoying free meals without doing anything. This made her feel bored, but she still stood in her designated position to ensure all protective measures were in place. At night, she waited in the living room on the third floor. Before Zacharias came out of the study, she wouldn't go back to her room to sleep. When he came out with a cup at 10:30 p.m., he saw her sitting there. He furrowed his brows. "What are you doing here?" Shirley stood up, took the cup from him, and said, "I'll pour some water for you." He handed her the cup. "After pouring the water, you can go back to rest." However, she shook her head. "Protecting you is my duty. I can't rest until you rest." Zacharias was taken aback. "Are you concerned about me?" he couldn't help but ask. "No. This is my mission," Shirley replied calmly. His expression showed a few traces of displeasure. Shirley turned around to pour water for him. When she brought the water to his study, he stopped her. "Organize the documents for me." She did it without complaint. She neatly arranged the documents he had read and tidied up the messy ones next to him. "I may not give you a day off tomorrow." Zacharias deliberately frightened her. Shirley was indeed startled, and she asked in an anxious tone, "Why?" "I have a task tomorrow, so you have to accompany me." "Mr. Flintstone, how can you go back on your word? You clearly promised me a day off." Her gaze was full of resentment. If it weren't for her internship in his residence and becoming his subordinate, she wouldn't have to greet him when she saw him in the future. No one would dare to blame her for that either. But now, she could only yield to him. In the future, she would keep her distance from him. Upon seeing that she was really getting angry, Zacharias could only say, "Okay, then. I'll give you a day off." Shirley said with some dissatisfaction, "Please be a person with credibility." Actually, what she wanted to say in her heart was, "Zacharias Flintstone, please be a human being." Shirley then went outside to wait for him again. Zacharias quickly regained his focus on work. At midnight, he saw the girl sitting upright on the couch. He couldn't help but feel his heart ache. "Go and rest. I've finished my work." Shirley nodded, got up, and walked toward the stairs. He watched her figure leave. In the long night, he felt a sense of loneliness creeping in. Before meeting her, he had never complained about such things, but after meeting her, he realized that the long night was too endless and it wasn't a good thing. Shirley quickly took a shower and got into bed. She needed to sleep early so that she looked good when meeting Cole tomorrow. She woke up early the next morning. She usually wore a bit of light makeup, but today, she put more effort into it. Moreover, she didn't wear the uniform but chose her usual clothes. It was a pink coat too. She had a pair of straight and slender legs that looked good in any pants. Today, she wore tight-fitting black pants, a high-necked white sweater, and a pink coat, which gave off the vibrant aura of a youthful college girl. Shirley thought that Zacharias had already left, but when she went downstairs, she found that he was still sitting on the couch. She couldn't help but clear her throat slightly. "Mr. Flintstone, I'll be leaving first." Zacharias saw her in this outfit and his ink-black eyes widened slightly. This girl has even dressed up specially to meet that man. He liked this outfit, and her long hair, cascading down her shoulders, added a touch of sweetness to her. Any man would like it. "Are you going for a date dressed like this?" Zacharias raised an eyebrow and asked. Shirley immediately denied it. "No. I'm just going home." After saying that, she quickly left. Her car was parked in the yard where she used to live. She walked over and took a deep breath, feeling that the air was sweet. At this moment, Roy received a phone call. "Hello, Mr. Flintstone. Track Imogen for me. I want to know who she's meeting today. Do you need me to take pictures for you?" "Yes." "Sure. I need pictures of all the intimate activities between her and that person," Zacharias instructed. Roy was startled that Zacharias knew Imogen was going to meet a man. Roy immediately understood his boss' intentions. "Okay. I will do so accordingly." On the other end, Shirley started the car and set off. Her mood was the most relaxed since she started working here for so many days. It was still early, so she could go back and spend some time with her grandmother before meeting Cole. At the Myers residence, Ava Clark was especially happy to see her granddaughter, but her sharp eyes noticed that her granddaughter had lost weight. "What's going on? Is there a lot of pressure in the Flintstone residence? Didn't you just go there for an internship?" Ava asked with concern. Shirley couldn't express her feelings right now, so she murmured, "No. It's good and very relaxing. I just stand guard every day without doing anything else." "How about the food?" Ava asked again. "Very good. We almost have a feast every time." "That sounds good. Why did you lose weight?" Ava asked. "Grandma, I didn't lose weight. I'm doing well. I'm going to have a meal with a friend at around 10 o'clock a.m. Ava nodded, but she couldn't help asking, "Is it a boy or a girl?" "It's a boy." Shirley still couldn't lie in front of her elders. Ava's eyes brightened. "Shirley, is it the boy you like?" Shirley pursed her lips and nodded shyly. "Grandma, please don't tell my parents. We're currently just friends and haven't developed to the stage of dating." "Okay. I know what to do. I won't tell them." Ava kept the secret for her granddaughter. Shirley received a message on her phone at this point. It turned out to be Cole. He had come out and was waiting for her at a cafe in front of a mall. "Grandma, my friend is waiting for me. I'll go now." Shirley hugged Ava, and the elderly woman felt happy seeing Shirley's joyful expression. "Go. Don't let him wait too long." Meanwhile, Roy sat in the car waiting outside the Myers residence. At this moment, he had just reported the situation to Zacharias. Just then, Roy saw Shirley's car pulling out. Although he found it strange that Imogen had entered the premises, his primary objective was to track and report, so he refrained from asking too many questions. Shirley's car quickly headed toward the city center. Due to her thoughts about meeting Cole, she didn't notice that Roy was following her. Roy parked his car near Shirley's. Today, he also changed into casual clothes and wore a hat and a mask to disguise himself for tracking. Shirley entered a cafe and saw Cole sitting by the window. He had changed out of his uniform and wore casual clothes. The gray coat emphasized his tall figure, making him look exceptionally stylish. Cole had a handsome face with well-defined features. He stood out as remarkably handsome among a group of men. Moreover, he exuded a righteous aura. Cole. Shirley happily sat across from him. It had been half a month since they last met and her inner longing was strong. He looked at her and there was still a hint of boyish shyness in his eyes. After all, having spent years in the base, he naturally lacked dating experience, so facing girls made him a bit restrained. "Is your previous injury completely healed?" he asked with concern, to which Shirley nodded. "It's completely healed. After I went back, my dad gave me some bone-setting treatment. There's no problem at all now." "That's good. Do you want to sit here or go out for a walk?" Cole asked for her opinion. "Let's go out for a walk and clear our minds," Shirley suggested. The truth was, it didn't matter what they did, the important thing was being with Cole. He nodded and went to the front desk. Then, he handed her a cup of hot coffee, which he had ordered in advance. "This is for you. Enjoy." She curved her lips happily before reaching out to take a sip. The rich aroma of coffee instantly warmed her heart. Cole politely held the door open for her as she walked out. At that moment, 2 other girls hurriedly followed her. Due to the heavy door, Cole also gallantly opened it for them. The 2 girls immediately looked at Cole with gratitude and their eyes were filled with joy. Little did they expect that the person holding the door for them would be such a handsome and stylish young man. Shirley observed this scene from the sidelines and it warmed her. Cole possessed a certain aura that made people feel secure. This scene was captured by Roy, who was not far away. He recorded it in the highest resolution. The admiring look in Shirley's eyes was clearly visible in the video. Roy thought that if Zacharias really had feelings for Imogen, these photos would probably upset him. However, his goal today was to report on Imogen's relationship situation. Cole and Shirley strolled through the warm shopping mall. Shirley noticed several couples passing by, hand in hand. She summoned her courage, changed the hand holding the coffee, and took the opportunity to link her arm through Cole's. Instantly, they transformed into an intimate couple strolling through the mall. This scene was also recorded in Roy's video. Cole was stunned for a moment before he withdrew his arm. Shirley was surprised at that. Does he not want me to link arms with him? However, the next second, Cole put his arm around her shoulder, showing that he preferred this more intimate gesture. Shirley's heart was instantly filled with joy. She curved her lips into a smile and then draped her arm over his waist, making the atmosphere more intimate. Both of them understood what was going on without saying a word. This kind of unspoken affection was very charming. In the background, Roy recorded this scene in the video. He recorded while indulging in the sweetness of the scene. "Cole, there's a nice restaurant on the 6th floor. Let's go there." "Sure. I'll treat you." "No, I'll treat you." "You're not allowed to argue with me about this meal," Shirley said dominantly. Cole had taken care of her in various ways in the base, so it was only right that she treated him to a meal. Roy, who was blending into the crowd, followed them to the 6th floor. During this journey, Cole's inner excitement grew. All his thoughts were on Shirley. He felt her affection for him and at the same time, he had chosen to transfer here because he knew she was here. After Shirley left, Cole realized that in the 3 months they spent together, he had fallen in love with her. It wasn't just a liking, it was love. He decided to take a bold step in his life. He came here to pursue a stable job and hoped that he might have a chance to be with Shirley in the future. Upon seeing them enter the restaurant, Roy followed shortly after. However, they entered a private room and it was difficult for him to sneakily record. Roy sat on a chair outside the restaurant and sent all the recorded videos to Zacharias. At this moment, Zacharias sat at the head of the table in a solemn conference room. Although his phone was on silent, the screen continued to display incoming messages. While he listened to his subordinates' reports, his gaze was drawn to the phone and his heart was eager to see the content of the messages. He grabbed his phone, stood up, and went to the balcony. His assistant, Freddie Hurst, wanted to ask something but was stopped by him. "I want some time alone." Freddie immediately stood a few meters away and waited. Zacharias opened the first photo and finally saw the appearance of the man Shirley liked. He had well-defined features, an upright aura, and appeared to be younger than Zacharias by a year or two. He was undoubtedly more exceptional than an average man. He must be an outstanding individual cultivated by the base. As Zacharias looked at the way Shirley gazed at the man, it was as though something was gripping his chest, making him feel a bit anxious. Does she really like the man that much? Shirley's clear eyes strongly revealed her admiration. It was like she was looking at a god she worshipped. In the following videos, she took the initiative to link arms with the man while walking side by side. Soon, the man unlinked their arms and wrapped his arm around her shoulder while she put her arm around his waist. The two walked through the crowd like a couple. Zacharias felt a constriction in his chest again, and his eyebrows knitted together. Then, they entered the restaurant, and Roy sent a message, "Mr. Flintstone, they have entered a private dining room, so I can't take pictures discreetly." Zacharias replied to Roy's message, "Don't let her notice you." When Zacharias returned to his seat, a daunting aura surrounded him, making everyone in the meeting room feel a chill. The vice president had only gone out briefly, yet his whole aura had changed. Who has provoked him? Fortunately, the meeting was about to end. After listening to the reports, Zacharias left without saying much. In the restaurant, Cole was also curious about what Shirley was doing here. "Shirley, are you here just to accompany your grandmother?" Shirley didn't dare to reveal her current job, so she lied with a guilty conscience. "Yes. I promised my mom to come and accompany my grandmother." "Is there any other reason? Like, is there something wrong with your health?" Cole asked with concern. Shirley smiled and shook her head. "Don't worry. I'm perfectly fine. I can easily go against 3 right now." Cole couldn't help but be amused by her. "I believe you have the strength for that." Shirley also chuckled. "But there's no need to fight now. Otherwise, I could warm myself up." "I hope you won't fight anymore," Cole said. Even though she was strong, accidents could happen in battles, and he would worry if she got hurt. Shirley nodded. "Okay. I'll be a good girl and stop fighting then." He nodded. At this moment, she received a message from Zacharias. "What are you doing?" he asked. Shirley casually glanced at the message and decided not to reply. Since she was on leave, she didn't need to respond to him for everything. Cole couldn't help but ask, "Aren't you going to reply to the message?" "It's not an important message. There have been too many junk messages recently and I don't want to bother with them," Shirley muttered before putting her phone aside. She then curiously asked, "Cole, is your job dangerous?" Cole smiled. "It depends, but that's part of my job." "Be careful, then. Don't make me worry about you." Shirley was very worried about his safety. "All right. I'll be careful." He nodded. Even without her reminding him, he didn't want to make her worry either. "This is delicious." She then scooped some food onto his plate. At the same time, in another upscale restaurant, Zacharias sat at the table, staring at his phone as he waited for a message. He had been waiting for over 10 minutes, and the girl hadn't replied to him. So, she's with her beloved man and doesn't even want to bother me anymore? He couldn't believe that Shirley hadn't seen his messages. Since her phone was secure for her profession, she wouldn't receive junk texts, and she would see every message. Frustrated, he sent another message. "Reply to my message." He wrote it in a more commanding tone. Shirley glanced at the message that lit up again, and with some impatience, she picked up her phone and checked the message. It was another overbearing message from Zacharias. What could he possibly want? "Yes, Mr. Flintstone?" She finally replied. "From now on, even if you're taking time off, you're not allowed to ignore my messages," the man quickly responded. Seeing that, she scoffed and replied, "What is it, Mr. Flintstone?" "Be back at the residence before 2:00 p.m. He had shortened her time off. This annoyed her, for it was already 12:30 p.m. If she had to be back at the residence by 2:00 p.m., it meant she had exactly one less hour for her date with Cole. "I will be back before 3:00 p.m., all right?" Shirley requested. Across the table, Cole watched as Shirley's expression showed signs of annoyance when she replied to the messages. It was clear that she was having an unpleasant exchange with someone. "What's wrong? Did someone upset you?" he asked curiously. Since Shirley had no one else to vent to, she complained to him, "Yeah, there's this really annoying person who's been making things difficult for me." "An annoying person? Who is it?" He grew even more curious. "It's just a really annoying person. This person is bossy and unreasonable, and I can't be bothered to deal with them." As she said that, she turned her phone off. Cole tried to console her. "Enough of the sad topics. Let's just enjoy our meal. Just stay away from people who upset you." But who could have upset her this much? Is it a man or a woman? Just then, Shirley propped up her chin and revealed a cute smile. "Cole, do you have a girlfriend?" He almost choked on his drink, startled by her direct question. After he cleared his throat, he replied, "I've been too busy with work to have a girlfriend." At his answer, she was secretly pleased. "Do you plan to have one?" "Of course," he replied, looking at her. "Then, have you considered me?" Her adorable eyes darted around when she said that. Shirley had grown up in a training camp and was raised like a boy. Her attitude toward love was straightforward, and she disliked playing games or beating around the bush. Since she was certain of her feelings for Cole, she wanted to know if he felt the same way. If they both liked each other, shouldn't they be in a relationship? "Shirley, you're an excellent girl and exceptional in every way," Cole praised. "Do you not like me, Cole?" she asked, lowering her head. From that part of his sentence, she thought that he didn't like her and was about to reject her. Cole was flustered and quickly said, "No, I really like you." "Then what concerns do you have?" She blinked, sensing that he had something on his mind. Indeed, how could Cole have no concerns? Her background was not simple, and her family held significant power. He was worried that he might not be worthy of her. Though he had never felt inferior before, in the face of Shirley's family background, Cole couldn't help but feel insignificant. Even if she liked him, he was worried that he would not be able to meet her family's expectations for a son-in-law. "Shirley, I came to Averna this time because of you." In the end, he chose to bravely voice his feelings. Shirley's eyes lit up with joy when she heard that. "Really? You came here for me?" Cole nodded. As a tough guy, he came all the way here for love, which demonstrated his unwavering commitment to love. "Cole, when I left that day, I wanted to tell you that I had been very happy during those 3 months. I also found the one I love, and that's you," she confessed. These were words she should have told him when she left last time. Finally, she had the courage to say them now. Cole's eyes held anticipation. He knew his life with Shirley in the future wouldn't be easy, but he couldn't reject her. "Shirley, can I truly make you happy?" He was concerned about not having a strong family background. Meanwhile, Shirley saw through his worries. "He's probably afraid that my family won't accept him. Cole is already outstanding. Even though his family background is less privileged, his flawless character has allowed him to join the special task force, making him one in a million. Don't worry, Cole. My parents are very open-minded. They will support whatever and whoever I love." Shirley didn't think she was superior to Cole. Others only recognized her because she benefited from her parents' fame. Yet what she truly sought was recognition earned through her efforts. Her words gave Cole confidence. And so, he nodded and said, "All right, I'll do my best." At the same time, in a certain restaurant, Zacharias hadn't eaten much of his meal and was fixated on his phone, deep in thought. Freddie dared not approach as he sensed that Zacharias was in a bad mood. Meanwhile, Roy had waited for an hour in the mall and finally saw Shirley and Cole coming out. This time, they held hands and they stood out in the crowd like a picture-perfect couple. He secretly captured the moment when they held hands and exchanged glances. After that, Shirley and Cole entered a men's clothing store. Since Cole insisted on paying for the meal, she was determined to buy him a coat. Unable to resist her offer, he followed her into the store. There, she held a coat and gestured in front of him, just like a considerate girlfriend. Roy had taken several affectionate photos of them from outside. When they had finished shopping, Shirley noticed that it was already 2:00 p.m. Why does time seem to fly by during a date? Coincidentally, Cole received an emergency mission, so he and Shirley walked out of the mall together. He accompanied her to her car, and they naturally felt a bit reluctant to part ways. "Let's meet again when you have some free time," she said to him. "Sure, we'll keep in touch." His gaze toward her was filled with tenderness. When their eyes locked, it was as if an unspoken electric current intertwined in the air, and an ambiguous atmosphere surrounded them. Shirley looked at Cole's lips, and she suddenly remembered the kiss she shared with Zacharias. She had the urge to see what it would feel like to kiss Cole. Taking the initiative, she leaned in closer to him, and it made Cole's heart race. "She's bolder than I imagined." At a distance not far away, Roy continued taking pictures. Since Shirley was leaning against the car and Cole's head blocked the view, from Roy's perspective, it appeared as if the two of them were kissing. In reality, Cole only gave Shirley a gentle peck on the forehead. He didn't lack the courage, he simply didn't want to overstep the boundaries. Shirley was too precious to him, and he didn't want to offend her. "Drive safely, Shirley," he said, patting her. At that moment, his phone rang again, indicating that it was time for him to leave. Shirley nodded, her face blushing. Although Cole was in a hurry, he took the time to open her car door for her. He stood there and watched as she drove away before briskly walking over to his car. Meanwhile, in another car, Roy let out a sigh of relief. His mission was complete, but he hesitated about whether to send the photos he had taken, as sending them might upset Zacharias. In the end, Roy sorted through the photos he had taken along the way and sent them to Zacharias. Zacharias had an afternoon meeting, but it wasn't particularly important as it was just a routine administrative meeting. He was sitting by the floor-to-ceiling windows when he heard the message notification. Swiftly, he picked up his phone to check. As he scrolled through the pictures of Shirley and the other man leaving the restaurant, he thought, they should have parted ways by now. However, when he reached the last picture, his expression turned extremely unpleasant. In this final picture, Shirley was leaning against the car, and the man was pressing his face against hers as if they were locked in an intimate kiss. A still picture intensified his imagination. He felt as though Shirley and the man had been kissing for a long time. After a deep breath, Zacharias checked the time on his watch and said to Freddie, "Cancel my afternoon meetings. I need to go home." Sir, do you have something important to attend to? Yes, it's something very important, Zacharias replied through gritted teeth, and he quickly headed toward the door. Freddie couldn't help but be surprised. As per his schedule, there didn't seem to be anything very important today. Originally, Shirley had planned to visit her grandmother's house, but when she realized she was running out of time, she decided to head straight to the Flintstone residence. She couldn't fathom how furious Zacharias was at this moment. I just don't understand why he is being so controlling. I'm off today, but I'm still being reprimanded for not responding to messages. With this thought in mind, she braced herself to face his anger when she returned. At the Flintstone residence, Zacharias had arrived earlier since it was closer to his location. However, Shirley had yet to return. He sat on the couch, patiently waiting for her. About 10 minutes later, Shirley arrived. She parked her car outside the courtyard and walked in, thinking that Zacharias wouldn't be home at this time. But much to her surprise, she saw him sitting on the couch as soon as she entered the hall. "Hi, Mr. Flintstone. You're home." Shirley greeted Zacharias awkwardly. "Come here." His gaze locked onto her. She thought she would let him scold her a little at most, and she could handle that. And so, she walked over to him, ready for his lecture. However, as she got closer, Zacharias stood up from the couch. With a height of nearly 6 feet 3 inches, he emanated an overwhelming presence. Surprised, Shirley raised her head, but the next moment, her waist was encircled by a large hand, and the back of her head was captured. Without a word, he leaned in to kiss her. He came in for a passionate kiss, his dominant lips and tongue invading, as though he were cleansing her lips of another man's presence, leaving only his mark. Shirley's mind went blank for a few seconds. She wasn't sure if she was afraid of him or if she was being threatened by his status, but she didn't fight back. She let him kiss her like this for over 10 seconds before she finally pushed him away. He took a step back, breathing heavily as he watched her. Infuriated, Shirley called out his name. "Have you had enough, Zacharias?" Meanwhile, Zacharias seemed oblivious to his possessive attitude toward her. It was as though he had decided that she belonged to him and no one else could touch or claim her. Yet she clearly didn't belong to him. At this point, Shirley's beautiful eyes were ablaze with anger. She had just finished her date with Cole, and her heart was filled with a deep affection for the man. It was the kind of affection that made her long to be with him. How could she let other men take advantage of her again and again? "Do you like him that much?" Zacharias suddenly asked. Shocked, she widened her eyes. "Did you have me followed?" "I just wanted to know who the man you like is," he replied casually. Immediately, she warned him by saying, "You. No matter what kind of person he's the one I like, and I won't allow you to do anything to him." At her words, Zacharias was momentarily stunned. When Shirley was on her way back, he had already learned about Cole's background and identity. Is she so determined to protect him? "Zacharias Flintstone, did you hear me?" Shirley called out his full name directly. At this moment, her determination to protect Cole was exceptionally strong, and she exuded an air of dominance that dared anyone to challenge her. Zacharias let out a soft sigh. "All right, then. I'll just get to know him, nothing more." Shirley was still angry inside. She didn't like her private life being snooped on, even if it was by the vice president himself. "I think I'm not cut out to stay here. Why don't you assign me to guard duty outside?" "Get someone else to take care of you," Shirley told him, not wanting to be too close right now. Zacharias raised an eyebrow. "You dislike me that much, huh? Am I not allowed to dislike you?" Shirley shot back. After all, he wasn't exactly worth much. Zacharias let out another sigh. All right. You won't have to see me for the next 3 days. Where are you going? Shirley asked. Heading out for a site inspection. You don't have to come with me, Zacharias said, then headed upstairs. Shirley bit her lip. What she wanted was to be transferred away from him to do guard duty, not to avoid him for 3 days. Back in her room, Shirley took off her coat and changed into her regular professional uniform. Since she was interning here for Imogen, she would put in her best effort to work diligently. She went to the 3rd floor and saw that the study door was closed. She let out a small sigh and stationed herself outside, waiting for him. Inside the study, Zacharias sat on the couch, his face calm, but there was a hidden sense of weariness in his eyes. His fist clenched and unclenched, and then, finally, he rubbed his temples. He felt a headache coming on. The demanding work every day hadn't tired him like this. It was that woman who was causing his mind to be in turmoil, and he didn't know how to handle it. Just then, his phone rang and he answered it. Hello. Sir, everything's ready on our end. Have you packed your bags? Can we leave in half an hour? Zacharias replied, bring the car in 10 minutes. After he hung up, he stood up and opened the study door. He was taken aback to find the girl still stationed outside the door. His just-settled emotions stirred again. Pretending not to notice him, Shirley lifted her chin, standing like an expressionless robot. Zacharias saw her indifferent expression, and his gaze dimmed. However, he didn't say anything. He just walked toward his master bedroom. Shirley frowned. Is he leaving? Hearing sounds of packing from the master bedroom, she eventually stepped forward and stood at the doorway, watching the man folding and stacking clothes into a suitcase. Need any help? Shirley asked, her tone a little stiff. No, thanks, the man answered. Shirley could tell Zacharias was also being distant, so she retreated. Not long after, the man emerged with a suitcase in hand. Shirley stepped forward again. Let me help you carry it downstairs. Zacharias declined her offer yet again. It's not necessary. With that, he carried the suitcase downstairs. Shirley followed him, and the man neatly draped his windbreaker over his arm. At the doorstep was a black SUV. A man in his 30s, Zacharias' assistant Freddie, stepped out. He wore a neat suit and had a sharp, capable look in his eyes. Sir, allow me. Please get in the car, he said, coming over to take the suitcase from Zacharias. As Zacharias was about to board, he felt a kind of struggle inside his heart. He had actually arranged for Shirley to accompany him on this business trip because he needed her by his side. But the unpleasant incident just now had disrupted all his plans. He turned back to look at Shirley standing at the doorway. In the end, he said, wait for me at home. Safe travels, sir, Shirley said to him. Freddie couldn't help but glance at Shirley, his eyes lighting up. When did he arrange such a charming lady by his side? Zacharias got into the car. Through the window, he could still see the girl at the doorstep. But as soon as Shirley saw him get in the car, she turned and walked back into the foyer. Zacharias let out another silent sigh. He had really angered her this time. This girl was not easily placated. He wasn't skilled in soothing women either. Sir, do you have something on your mind? Freddie turned to ask. Do you know how to comfort a girl? Zacharias raised an eyebrow and asked. Freddie was stumped. He thought seriously for a moment before shaking his head. I don't. After saying that, he couldn't help but turn to look at his boss. Is he in a romantic relationship with the girl who was at his residence earlier? Indeed, after Zacharias left, the atmosphere lightened. Shirley sat on the couch, taking a moment to rest. She felt annoyed when she thought about Zacharias' domineering and irritating kiss earlier. If it were any other girl, they might have been too intimidated by Zacharias' status to resist. But Shirley wasn't just any other girl. She grew up in a center of power, so Zacharias' status didn't intimidate her. They interacted as equals. That evening, a housekeeper came to cook dinner just for her. After finishing her meal, Shirley went back to her room. 2 days passed in the blink of an eye. Shirley was quite free. She had been reading books, using the computer, and even had a phone call with her mother. In fact, she handled everything calmly. The third day came, and Shirley thought Zacharias would be back. But as evening approached, there was no news of his return. Even the security guards in the dormitory outside were quiet. Shirley couldn't help but furrow her brows. Where has Zacharias gone? He hadn't sent her any messages in these 3 days, and she naturally hadn't taken the initiative to inquire about his whereabouts. So, when Zacharias didn't return, she suddenly felt that something was amiss. She wondered if she was overthinking it or if something had happened to him. On the 4th morning, Shirley got up early and went to his door. She pushed open the door to his bedroom, but he wasn't there. Could he be working in his office and did not come home? Shirley thought about it again. Could it be that after I rejected his kiss last time, this man is now too angry to see me again? By the evening of the 5th day, Shirley couldn't hold back any longer and sent a message to Zacharias. Mr. Flintstone, when are you coming back? She sent the message and waited for a long time, but there was no reply. Maybe he's just too busy. Shirley picked up her phone and started browsing some news. Soon, she clicked on a video of a major car accident on the highway, which was a particularly gruesome incident. She couldn't help but scroll down to read the comments. Many people were discussing the accident, but suddenly, a netizen popped up and commented, "Do you guys know that there was a huge explosion on the highway 3 days ago? It didn't seem to be reported, but it involved over a dozen cars and was a very serious accident." I know. It happened right behind me that day. I saw those people coming out of the cars wearing uniforms, and they looked like bodyguards. Could it be that some big shot was involved? Yeah. The news was suppressed, but that accident was even more serious than this one. This accident got reported, while that one was suppressed. Shirley stared at the comments, suddenly feeling an ominous premonition. She immediately searched for reports of accidents within the past week, but sure enough, there was no mention of the accident that the netizens had mentioned. If it did happen and was suppressed, it must be something that couldn't be made public. Shirley picked up her phone and dialed Roy's number. She suddenly needed to confirm something. Hello. Imogen, what's up? Roy's voice came through. Captain Barlow, where's Mr. Flintstone? Imogen, focus on your own work. Don't inquire about other matters. Roy's tone suddenly became stern. At that point, Shirley was even more convinced that something had happened to Zacharias. She was so anxious that she disregarded her identity and asked, Captain Barlow, please tell me quickly, did something happen to Mr. Flintstone? Roy's voice lowered as he issued a serious warning. Imogen, don't ask about things that aren't your concern.
Thank you for listening. If you have enjoyed this story, please like and share so others can see it too. Also hit the subscription button and notification bell so you can be notified on our next release. Thank you for your support. God bless you.